like Dave mid-stretch.
I know. It's early. Y'all got us up early.
It is early on the East Coast as well. It's about 10 a.m., but it's a little bit earlier for you, huh, Dave?
You know, just I don't necessarily get going this early in the day, but
Fair.
we have a very flexible schedule, so I love that.
Yes, we do.
Great. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good late evening for those of us who are joining us from all over the world. Thank you so much for taking your time to spend it with us here today for our Let's Learn .NET MAUI event, which is a topic near and dear to my heart. And I believe I'm with two people who also feel very similarly. Maddie and David, I'll let you two introduce yourselves.
Go ahead, Maddie.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. I'm Maddie Monticola. I'm a product manager on the MAUI team. My focus is mostly on developer productivity, but we do a little bit of everything these days. So I am here with my esteemed colleague.
David Ortnow, another product manager on the .NET MAUI team. And I remember meeting Jamie back at Xamarin.Evolve. I imagine, were you at all three, Jamie? Were you
Yes,
at all? Yeah.
I luckily got to go to all of them. That was a
Like,
joy.
who brought their child? Who brought their child to the tech conference? She was so young, and I was like, wow. But she was like running the show.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
Me or someone who brought their child? Oh, I was like, who brought their child to Evolve?
No, he's talking about
so
you.
young. Well, it could have been Pierce, right? I mean, because
That's
he was
true.
like 18.
He was.
So we go way back.
We do. This whole crew goes real far back, and it's exciting to be here today because a lot of amazing things to talk about today, as well as recently because of Microsoft Build. A lot of announcements, a lot of previews, also some videos we can talk about. But we have a lot. So I'm very excited. I'd love to dive right down into it. We do have an agenda where we're going to cover a little bit of an intro of what .NET MAUI is, as well as kind of a little bit of its history and how we all know each other and got to hang out. And then we'll dive into it. We'll start in the Microsoft Learn modules and walk you through getting started. And don't worry, we'll take all of your questions and we'll get right into it. Why don't you take it away, Maddie?
Yeah, let's do it.
Woo.
So, first and foremost, we want to give you a quick introduction to what on earth this .NET MAUI, .NET multi-platform app UI thing is. Then I'll show you some of the places that you should go and look. Oh, you took away Dave, too? I can't see his facial expressions? No, I'm kidding.
You don't need to see me.
I was just waiting for him to be like, what is she saying? Yeah, we'll take you through some of the places you can go to look at .NET MAUI stuff and learn some more things. And then we'll jump into the Learn modules, which I'm very excited about. What is .NET MAUI? Well, first of all, it's released. It's out. May 24th was the day, I think.
23rd.
Yeah, it's not 23rd. Close enough. But it's out in the world. It is the best way, in my opinion, which is correct, to build cross-platform native UI for Windows, Mac OS, iOS, and Android. You build that UI with C# and XAML, so that's why we're on .NET, because it's a .NET framework, or not .NET framework. Don't say that word. If you're new to .NET framework is old. It is a .NET platform, .NET thing you can use. And with one code base, you can create an app that deploys to all of these different operating systems, which obviously span a bunch of different devices, mobile phones, desktop phones, tablets, all the things you could ever want. And what's cool about native apps is, phones and desktops have special settings that you don't get on the web, like battery life and flashlight access. That's my favorite one, turning on and off someone's flashlight. So you can get all those native device capabilities from a single API right within your .NET code. And it's available now in Visual Studio 17.3 Preview 1.1. That's the preview that's out right now. And what we're going to do, let me show you the agenda for today so you can get an idea of what you're in for. Nope, not that. This one. This is the Let's Learn .NET MAUI event. Thank you, Jamie and Jamie's wonderful team for putting this whole event together and doing these every month because they're amazing. This is our agenda. So we're only 3 minutes over. That's fine. Well, I guess I'm introducing Maui. We're doing great. We're doing great. So I'm going to take some more time to talk you through what exactly Maui is. We're going to do plenty of Q&A throughout, and then we were going to start with the workshops in the Learn module. So if you are new to Microsoft Learn, it is very fun. Let's pop into that. This is the Learn module we'll be going through today. I'm sure it's linked somewhere. But what's cool about Learn is you get experience points the more you learn. So I'm only level 4, which is kind of upsetting. I feel like I should be higher. But, you know, you can go through all these modules, and there's much more than just Maui. I mean, there's anything you could ever want for .NET is on here as all .NET learning paths. Look at this. Look at these filters. So there's modules, kind of the individual components, and then there's learning paths. If you've never done C# development before, I highly recommend this one. It's pretty short, and it was hard for me to learn .NET when I started, learn C# originally. So definitely check this out. They're super interactive, knowledge checks and all those things. So you'll learn more about this as we go through. Click back.
You know, I have a format recommendation for a programming recommendation for Jamie and team. So you should bring product managers on, have them do what we're going to do, go through their products, learn paths, and then drop green slime on them when they get the questions wrong. See how much they really know. Let's go Nickelodeon on this thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that would be fantastic.
Well, Jamie's big mistake was telling us which modules we were going to do.
True.
Because I got to look through this before. What you should have really done was let me just look through this the first time with everybody here. Let me zoom in a little bit for the feedback production. Yeah, and so you can all just watch me and be like, what does that mean? Who wrote that?
I can make that happen, right, Jamie? You can do
Just
this?
put you on the spot. Yeah, I'll fresh order slime to your house, and you'll have to rig it above
It's like
you.
kids at school being able to like throw whipped cream pies in their teachers' faces or dunk them in the. People would love, perhaps, to see us get slimed.
Yeah,
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
Because if
I was looking at some of these modules, like we were talking about. One of the the REST web services one. I was like, I could probably do this, and then I was like, no, maybe I won't. I like the UI. Although I do know how to do that one. SQL, not for me. Slime me up. But all the XAML stuff, I got you. I had a dream that last night. You can tell this has been on my mind. That the president of the U.S., Joe Biden, this is a dream. This did not happen. Tweeted that he hated XAML, and it started like a literal riot. I woke up just out of, I was just like, what is going on?
You're reading too much Twitter before you went to sleep.
That's exactly what I think happened. Anyways, back on topic. Why XAML? Why would that be on my mind? Because that's what you use to write your .NET MAUI apps. This is the .NET MAUI GitHub. It is fully open source. We have an amazing team that works on it. You can submit issues, pull requests. We have the cool discussions feature, so you can go in and see all these things that people are interested in. We actually do like API reviews a little bit. We haven't done one in a while, but I know we're going to start doing a little bit more as contributions get a little bit higher now that we're GA. There's a ton of resources in this GitHub repo. My favorite is the wiki here. We do have docs. So where's the link to the docs? I know this. I'll just Google it or Bing it. Maui, .NET MAUI docs. What is .NET MAUI? Good question. So we do have documentation. Feel free to poke around through these. You'll learn a lot of the basic stuff here through these Learn modules today. It's kind of the same team. We all work together to make sure that these things all coexist happily. But we do have docs. If you want to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of things, though, definitely check out the wiki. Very, very helpful. We also have this wonderful roadmap. Love that. This is where we are, .NET MAUI GA. And so we'll look at .NET 7 kind of coming up soon, which ships in the fall. So yeah, those are some resources. So let's, I guess, what time is it? I'm going to pause and do some questions real quick because I'm a little bit ahead of schedule. And then we can just jump right into the Learn module. Oh, wait, this is the last thing I wanted to show was Dave's beautiful blog post. Everything you could ever learn about .NET MAUI and its release is here in this blog. some beautiful pictures, some of our control vendors. I'll already shipped Maui packages, so you can go and pull in beautiful UI pieces that people already built for you. Love it. This is our .NET Podcasts app. You can see on GitHub. It's a fully featured Maui app. It runs on desktop and mobile. It uses Blazor code if you're a web developer.
Zoom.
What?
Zoom in.
Again? How's that?
Perfect. That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that beautiful app. Some more very cool. Oh, I love the cascade layout. And a ton of accessibility features. We've talked about that before on our community stand-ups, which are the first Thursday of every month. You can join today at 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern, I believe, for our Maui launch party. But there's plenty of other things happening in Maui. Oh, look at this. Look at this. That's cool. Yeah, so definitely check out this blog if you're interested in some more examples than what we can give you today. But we're going to do the intro to Maui, and you're going to see how amazing it is. So pause for questions. I think, Jamie, do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pop back on. So we do have a few questions that I'd like to address really quick. And so don't worry if we don't get to your questions right now. Feel free to continue asking them. We do have moderators in the chat, and we'll also take more time in the end for more questions. So one question from Ricardo is, how do we profile .NET MAUI apps?
Good question. So it's .NET. So you can use the .NET command line profiling tools, no problem, with Maui. We're working now on the in Visual Studio experience. So if you run the Windows app, the WinUI port, you can do the WinUI. You can use the WinUI profiling tools, which is probably the best thing to do right now. That doesn't work for Android and iOS, and is not yet on Visual Studio for Mac. So we're working on it. The cool thing is that because it's part of .NET, Xamarin, if you're a Xamarin dev, and I see some of the folks in the chat are, Xamarin was built on Mono. .NET MAUI is the evolution of Xamarin brought into the actual .NET base class library. Runtime, all those things, it's one thing now. So we get to hook in a lot more to some of those native .NET tools instead of rebuilding them. So there's a really good profiling blog, wiki by Matt Leibowitz. I think it's in our wiki. Let me look real quick. Using the command line stuff, and then just know that it's something we want to do more of. I don't know where it is, but I saw it at some point, so I'm sure if you look for it, oh!
Did we just get slammed? Oh my gosh.
That was definitely slime worthy.
That was amazing. Oh my gosh, that's not planned. Okay.
I found it. Unslime me.
Unslime her.
You can use the .NET JS router tooling. So.
Okay, cool. So while we paste that link, I have a few more questions I want to get to. Hopefully no more sliming.
No, all the sliming. All the sliming.
All the slime. Dave, you started something. You started something. Can of worms.
Dave, you're muted.
Okay, so Yuri asks, do I have to know anything about Xamarin.Forms to get started with .NET MAUI? That's a good question.
Not at all. I actually have been having more fun with people who never used Xamarin and starting .NET MAUI because they have no preconceived notions. And you're muted, Dave. I don't know if I said that already, but
I unmuted you.
Oh, good. Yeah. I didn't know if you were going to say something, but no, not at all. It's super easy to get started. It's way easier to get started than it was with Xamarin. And we have a bunch of content geared towards beginners, like this kind of event. Because we want people to try it out.
Yeah. We actually also just, as of today, we just released the brand new .NET MAUI beginner videos. Our dear friend, James Montemagno, created this epic course. They're all on .net/videos, where you can find all of those. I'll also get that link and paste it right in the chat for y'all, because if you do want to get started, James has a whole video beginner series course for you as well, that you can take after this event.
Yeah, I think Michael might be referring to the 4-hour course that's the workshop that's
There's
on
also a
James's
workshop.
YouTube. So there's that, but this new one, the production quality is really nice, and
Yeah.
all new content there. And then of course you've got Gerald, who has a YouTube with tons of beginner content as well. So
Yeah.
there's some really good resources out there these days.
Yeah. It's cool
Yeah.
because I learn new things every time I watch the intro and beginner courses, because I have not been a beginner in a long time. So I don't do these. And then I'm like, whoa, wait, we can do that? I should have been doing that this whole time. So
Yeah, you do this so you don't get slimed.
yeah.
Okay, so Michael asks, is there a public roadmap for .NET MAUI is headed next?
You want to take this one?
So themes of .net is the website for all public roadmap things that are .net related. Last I looked, our .NET 7 user stories and epics and whatever the different terms we use had not yet been all made public. So they're in our planning repo, and I should check. If you don't see a bunch of .NET 7 things, then go check that out. We are, now that we've GA'd, we are going back to our .NET 7 plan and reevaluating and making sure that, are these the things we can commit to deliver? How should we prioritize these things? Because we've been learning all along with every preview what's important to developers and those who are trying to use the product. So there will be some, shifting and revisions, but that's where you would go to find that.
Cool. Thank you. Lovely producers in the back for adding that theme. And so speaking of out of preview, when is, I guess, so this is a similar question to this one, and I'll actually say it that way, is, so when will .NET MAUI be available in Visual Studio 2022 and not the preview?
Good question. So if you have the stable version of VS, you don't have the .NET MAUI templates yet. And that's because Visual Studio shipped a couple weeks before .NET MAUI shipped. So we decided to keep it in preview VS for a little bit longer. So we'll show you how to download it in the module. But 17.3, which is the stable version, or the version that when it becomes stable, you will be able to get MAUI in. I can't give you the date because they change all the time, but I can tell you there's usually 4 to 6 previews, and we're coming up to preview 2 shortly. I can also tell you to go look at the release notes and see how far in between there are for Visual Studio releases, and you'll see it's usually 2 to 3 months. So you won't have to wait too long.
Awesome. Alrighty. So that seems like a good amount of questions for now. And I do want to dive into this workshop because we got a lot to do. And so let's go ahead and start that workshop number 1.
Cool. So let me close out all the tabs I don't need. Nice. And I do see someone just said my C# shirt is great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
It's amazing. Dave is wearing his .NET MAUI shirt, and if you buy the .NET MAUI shirt, it donates to Girls Who Code and Black Girls Code. It's on Bonfire. Just Google it. You'll find it. Cool. Let's jump right in. So I probably should have asked you to do this before, but now I am going to tell you, if you want to follow along, you want to go to visualstudio.com/preview. If you do not have the preview yet. And I promise I will go slow so you can start kind of pulling this together and catch up with me. But go ahead. Community is totally free. You do not need to pay us anything to get started with the Community Visual Studio. If you have an enterprise license, feel free to grab the enterprise preview. So go ahead, click this download button. It's going to download. If you've never installed Visual Studio before, it's going to give you not only Visual Studio, but the amazing Visual Studio installer, which I love. You'll see I have a couple different ones installed, so you can install side by side preview and stable. I don't actually have stable. I have the main branch, which we're not going to look at today. Let me tell you something. Don't write your production apps on the main branch of Visual Studio. Does not work well. But the current version is 17.3 preview 1. Yay. And that is the one with MAUI in it. So when you go to install it, and I'm actually going to click through the learn path while we do this. Let's start here. Start. Oh, I'm gonna get credit for this course. That's great. You guys all get to watch my you folks all get to watch my experience come up now as we click through this together. This is exciting. Slime. This is what we're gonna do in this module. We're gonna learn the basic architecture of .NET MAUI. So I will answer all your questions about where it targets. I saw something about, is it mobile? Is it desktop? It's mobile and desktop. What you have to build it with. So XAML and C# is the default. We're going to do XAML today. You do not have to use XAML to build your UIs if you don't want to. You totally do not. Then we're going to create an app. We're going to talk about shared UI, deploy it, and then do some platform API stuff. So I showed you how to install Visual Studio 2022 preview with the MAUI workload installed. If you don't know what the workload looks like, when you install it, it's going to give you this beautiful page with all the different things you can install with Visual Studio. It's amazing. You want to check off this one that says .NET Multi-Platform App UI Development. That's .NET MAUI. That's what it stands for. We put it all out there for you. And when you click on it, it gives you everything you need. .NET MAUI, C# and Visual Basic, development tools, and of course, MS Build and NuGet, which is how you do your builds and package management. So check this off, install. It's not too big. Go ahead. All right. Back to the learn. Let's continue. Let's talk about what the .NET MAUI architecture is. So I'm not going to read this to you because that seems kind of weird. We have a team that wrote this and it's beautiful and they've translated it and done everything we need to do. But I am going to call out some of the more important kind of key parts of this. It's like the SparkNotes version. If you're from the, I think SparkNotes is US only, but when you had like a book in school you had to read, and then you didn't read it, there was this website called SparkNotes and it would tell you what happened in all the chapters of the book. So when you went into class, you could like pretend you read the book. We're doing that with .NET MAUI and our Learn content. Great. So what's cool with .NET MAUI is that the business logic and user interface are same, shared across all the different platforms, but you only have to write them once. You can write specific ones for all the platforms if you want to, but most people who build .NET MAUI apps use the MVVM architecture, model view model, which means that the UI is completely separate from the business logic, right? We use this thing called view models. If you've done C# native development for Windows or anything, you're familiar with this. So you'll learn a little bit about that. You don't have to get too caught up in it, I promise. It's not going to be... I kind of avoided learning MVVM for a while. Now I learn it, but it's pretty great. So let's look at this picture. So the way that MAUI works, right? How does .NET MAUI work? Is we have the app code and we have your .NET MAUI, which is not just your UI, even though it's multi-platform app UI. It's also your native API access. So if you were here earlier, like things like accessing the flashlight, opening something in the native browser, checking the battery life, seeing the accelerometer, all those different things. All that code lives here, and it targets .NET for Android, which just is an Android app under the hood using Android and iOS. .NET for iOS, same thing. .NET for Mac, and that is using Mac Catalyst. So if you're not familiar with that, it's like a tablet-friendly way to develop Mac apps. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it. It's probably pretty good. So you can run a Mac OS Catalyst app on both the desktop, your Mac desktop, and on an iPad. And then, of course, WinUI 3 for your Windows app. How does it work? Well, you say button, right? And it says, oh, here's my MAUI button. The interface of it is button. There's 3 different types of buttons for the 3 different platforms. I guess 4 different types of buttons if you consider Mac Catalyst's button different, which I guess it is. But we use something called handlers that basically say, like, what's the right way to render this? What's cool is that we can swap this out for whatever we want in the future. So it doesn't have to be UIKit. It doesn't have to be Windows UI XAML controls. We could draw all these things. We could use the Fluent toolkit and design systems if they ship controls for that. Yeah. Note for all you anti-XAMLers, if you prefer you can use C# to create your UI. So don't worry, you can do that. Requirements. We should looked at this. Knowledge check. Oh man, this is where I'm gonna get slimed, I think. All right, which environment provides the runtime support? Well, if we go back up to our diagram here, this one, .NET 6 base class library has the mono runtime, which is, it's all .NET. It's just a different runtime that runs on Android, iOS, and Mac than obviously the one that runs Windows apps. Makes sense. So it's got to be the mono runtime because that's the only one that was in the box. Although Win MAUI sounds kind of cool, but that's not it. Which markup language? Well, I've already said it 100 times. XAML. Markup. Extensible application markup language. Is that what XAML stands for? Check my answers. Yeah. Uh-oh, wait. Oh no, wait, I totally got one wrong. No! It's the Win32 runtime because I didn't read the question. So, oh my God, I didn't even make it through the first page. The question I thought it was answering was which environment provides the runtime support from MAUI application, which is Mono or Win32. But I was like, well, it's Mono because that's like most of them. The question is WinUI 3. So it's a Win32 runtime. Let's do that again. Okay. Now I'm good. Great. We're off to a great start. This is Learn.NET MAUI with someone who has worked on .NET MAUI for 4 years. Does not know what runtime we use, apparently, because I can't read. We're doing amazing. All right, let's create a project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the Learn module onto this screen here so that I can do it on my screen with Visual Studio. Everyone's like, why did you choose that? I'm like, because I thought it was about Android, and that's what the diagram said. I know, I'm sorry. So keep the Learn module up if you're lucky enough to be working with two monitors. Otherwise, just follow along in Visual Studio with me. So I opened it, I hit launch. It gives me my beautiful Visual Studio launcher. And what I want to do is create a new project. Ooh. And I'm sure MAUI is in my recents, as it is, but it's probably not in yours. So you can click MAUI from the drop down here. You can select some of the platforms you want. Oh, that took a long time. The Reflect Dark theme. Okay. Or you can just search for it. Search for .NET MAUI app. We're not going to go into MAUI Blazor apps today, but it's cool. Plenty of workshops, plenty of videos and stuff for that if you're interested in a little bit more of an advanced MAUI deep dive. Okay. Name it whatever you want. And I know this is a little zoomed out because I don't know why I switched to dark theme. What am I going to name this? Let's Learn MAUI. Oh, I can't put exclamation points on it as much as I want to. And create it. Yay. And give it a second. What this is doing is grabbing all of the files you could ever possibly need to deploy to all those different devices. It's creating. Ooh. It's flashing. You can see my slides behind me. Wonderful. For those of you, if you're a step behind, it's this app, this little checkbox. Just search MAUI or hit it in the drop down. Ooh. And Visual Studio, of course, opened on the wrong monitor. So we have to give it a second, and then I can drag it back over. Great. All right. First of all, you can tell our team is hard at work because we have 2 different places now for you to click and learn more or give us feedback on MAUI. We have this survey, and we also have new to .NET MAUI. Click here to learn more, which takes you to the Build Your First App doc. Different than the Learn module, also helpful. The Learn module is a little bit more hands-on. That's what we're going through today. But the doc is also really helpful, and they're very similar, so you're not missing anything by doing one over the other. So when you have a .NET MAUI app, where's my Learn module? Make sure I'm not jumping ahead from anything. Yes, okay. What you'll see is this wonderful single project. So if you're new to Visual Studio, Visual Studio is all based on solutions, solution files, .sln. And in each solution, there's a subset of different projects. So CS proj files are what define a project. With MAUI, all you need is one project. That's this guy. Let's learn .NET MAUI, or this gal, this project. And yeah, you can add all different projects. If you want to add libraries or backend or middleware or whatever the words are that you use in your company for API projects, I don't know. All those things. You can add those in right into your Visual Studio solution and start pulling those things from MAUI. It's just .NET. That's just how it works. But we're going to stick with one project today, pretty basic. And you get a bunch of things here. First and foremost, you have app.xaml. Whoa. And this is not doing much. It's just saying there's an app. But it is telling you that you have these two resource dictionaries. So we're not going to get too into the nitty gritty of it, but resource dictionaries are basically places you can put a bunch of shared styles. So for example, we'll open the colors one. This just has a bunch of colors defined. And then we also have names for them. So like we set what we want the primary color to be of our application, and that's the .NET Purple 512 BD4. Great color. Always love it. And then now anywhere in my app, by default, I can grab these styles and style my controls like that. That's app.xaml. Every XAML file has what we call a code behind file, or people call them all different things. This one is app.xaml.cs. And all it does is say main page equals new app shell. What on earth is an app shell? App shell, another XAML file, very simple, defines the navigation and hierarchy of my app. So a shell, by default, it's just one page, right? That's your shell content. The page is the home page. It tells you to load, it tells the app to load main page when you go to it, but you can add flyout menus. You can add hamburger menus. I need to stop reading the chat on the side because I keep getting distracted. I'm sorry. Flyout menus, hamburger menus, all the different menus, all the different things, and do that all and define it all within shell. So let me check how I'm doing for time quickly too. Oh yeah, plenty of time. Plenty of time. There's also some important things in the. Did we change this file? Hold on. I think I found a bug. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah. We need to update something. Our app.xaml does not have on start anymore, which it does have in the learn module. Slime me. Slime me up. Just kidding. You don't have to slime me. Thanks. Cool. I love finding bugs. So next, let's get into the fun part, the main page. And this is where our UI is actually defined. All the XAML stuff. This is hard for, because usually what I do is I run the app first, and then I talk about the app things, what the app next to it, but we're not doing that because I'm being good and I'm following the learn module. But this is a pretty simple UI, even though it kind of looks like there's a lot going on. It's actually not that much when you look at it. So everything's in a scroll view. First and foremost, that's the top thing on my page. Everything's in a scroll view, which means I can scroll on my phone or on with my scrolly wheel on my desktop if I want to. And then a vertical stack layout is what we're using for all of these elements. We have a ton of elements. We have vertical and horizontal stack layouts, grids, flex layouts, all the other things that you could possibly need to lay out the pieces of your app. But we're using a vertical stack layout here. It's literally just things on top of each other. And then we have an image with a source. Semantic properties are for accessibility. So this is all like screen reader stuff. The screen reader will say, this is a cute .NET bot waving hi to you. Some sizing things, options for centering or left justifying or right justifying. And then a couple labels, pretty self-explanatory. The labels have text. And then a button. The button has text that says click me. And then it also has an on counter clicked event, which is pretty cool. So let's look at the code behind the .cs for this main page .xaml. And pretty simple, pretty fancy code. Literally what this is doing here is it's got an on counter clicked, which is the same event, if you noticed, from the button here. This guy, on counter clicked. And it just increments this count variable we set in this class. If you're totally new to C#, follow along for now and familiarize yourself with it, and then you can kind of go back and understand like how classes and stuff works later. I promise it's not going to get too complicated today. But yeah, if count equals 1, right, clicked 1 time. If count equals not 1, it's going to say clicked number of count times, plural. Oh, whoa. So yeah, so that's it. That's the whole app. Very difficult logic here. So there's a couple other things going. Let me check out my learn here where I'm at. Don't skip ahead. Cool. All right, let's talk about the native capabilities of this. So with the MAUI app, it's one project, but to make all of the different apps run on all the different platforms, you have to have some platform specific code. So in this little platforms folder, we have all the different targets. And in Android, we have specific stuff like the main activity, main application, and these are startup files that Android needs to package and then run this app, right? So you never have to touch these. They'll just get built in with you. But you can do some of the startup type stuff in a shared way using MAUI-program.cs. And all we're doing here is we're doing a builder that's adding some fonts. So if you want to use custom fonts in your app, it's super easy. You just say configure fonts. And what this does is loads those files in to the native platform and installs them as fonts so that it can use them in your app. And all these files, by the way, are in our resources folder, same place that our styles were. But you can see the font files and the images file is all shared in resources. Super, super easy peasy. Nothing crazy going on there. And then, yeah. All right. Scrolling. Project resources. Yes. So I talked about what Visual Studio is like. If you want to look at a CS proj file, first and foremost, you can just double click on this and it's going to open the CS proj file. Very fancy. This has shared settings for your app, and we're actually working on, if you do this, a UI for all of this, so it's much easier to change all these things. So we'll go through both the CS proj and the UI version of the CS proj, the properties of the app. But the real things you need to care about here are the application title. This is what's going to get displayed on the phone. The version, supported platform version. So if you want to say like, you can't use this before iOS 14.2, that's what we're doing here. We're boxing it to 14.2. And then we're also defining via wildcards that there are custom fonts and custom raw assets and images. And then two very cool things here. And this is probably my favorite feature of MAUI. I have a lot of favorite features of MAUI, but this one really might take the cake. We are creating icons and splash screens for our application in code here. So you used to have to go build a special one for iOS, a special one for Android, a special one for Windows, blah, 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 blah. Not anymore. For the app icon, you have a foreground file and you have a regular file. And then you set a color if it needs a background color. Totally acceptable. That's the .NET purple. And then for the splash screen, same thing, background color, and then an image to go on top of it. So we'll see what that actually looks like when we run the app. But that's pretty much it. So if you want to do this stuff in the properties, right click on the project and go to properties. It's this thing right here. Or apparently you can use Alt-Enter. I don't know my shortcuts. You can also change things like the minimum frameworks here. You can change, where am I looking for? I'm going to get slimed. Package? Yeah. You can change your app name. Did I scroll past it? Assembly name? I don't know. It's, MAUI shared. Oh my goodness. I'm going to get slimed. Application title. It's all in MAUI shared. Application ID. GUID. we just create one for you randomly, but if you have one, you have one. Display versions, and then anything you can need specifically for the manifest for iOS or Android. So that's it. That's it. So let's do our knowledge check real quick. Oh boy. Will this go better than the last one? Let's find out. Okay. In which method of the application object, what? Should you create the initial window displayed by the app? Well, we can figure this out. The initial window displayed by the app is main page, right? So we can go to main page. Oh, it's open. And the way we instantiated main page was via app shell. App shell was back here, but app shell was instantiated in app.xaml. And that's here. Yeah. So this is the constructor of app. And in app, we say main page equals new app shell. So I think it's the constructor. It's not startup and it's not configure, right? Okay. Okay, good. Where do you implement the logic for an event handler control, such as the clicked event for a button? I don't like this question, actually. The answer is you implement the logic in the code behind file, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You can implement that logic anywhere and just create a fake method that links to that in the code behind file. So you need the code behind file, or you need to do some kind of binding or commands. We're not going to get into commands. James Montemagno has a great video about what commands are. You don't have to do it there, but that is definitely the easiest way to do it. All right, here we go. God, here we go. Yes! Yes! Oh my gosh, you guys got me confetti! This is great! Oh god, that was terrifying. Oh. And look at that, my XP's up. I'm up to 3,000. So let's talk about the next step here. Adding visual controls. I wonder, oh, hold on, I want to see how long. Okay, it said that was 5 minutes for that exercise. We took like 15. I'm doing great. This is just reading again. So again, I'll do a highlight reel of this. To recap, the things that your MAUI project comes with, the program file, which does the native startup stuff for all of the platform specifics things. AppXAML and AppXAML CS, they provide UI resources. They create the initial window in which your app lives. App Shell, which is the initial page and handles the registration of the pages for navigation routing is what it's officially called. What I like to say is it makes your app, it's like the architecture of it, right? The structure of it. And then of course the layout and UI logic in main page. So this is just going through pretty much, I think, what I just told you, which is pretty cool. A little bit more details. App class has lifecycle event handling. So for like on resume, on create, I know that's not in the template anymore, but you can add them. Shell has the visual hierarchy of the app, navigation, some really cool ways that we do navigation. Like it's all URI based. So it's really easy. You can just be like, go to this page. Nothing fancy. Then there are also pages, views, controls, and layouts, a whole different type of thing. We have content page, which is like the basic page. We also have things called tabbed pages and flyout pages. So if you want to do a master detail type like hamburger menu, or if you want to do tabs across, you can use those types of pages. Bunch of different views. Dave is going to talk about layout in his module, so we're not going to get too into controls and layouts right now. But you'll learn all about these amazing things with Dave. Vertical and horizontal stack layouts, absolute, flex, grid, all the different things. What is this? Is all layout stuff? Yeah. You can also do all this stuff in C# if you want. So this is a XAML file rebuilt in C#. In the constructor of the page, public test page, we just created a scroll view, a stack layout, a label with all these attributes. And then we literally just add them all as children to my stack layout. And then my stack layout is the only content in my scroll view. So yes, you can totally do all these things in C# if you don't like XAML. Perfect. Cool. Tuning layout. Cool. It's useful to add a little breathing space. Yes, margins and paddings. If you know the difference between margin and padding without thinking about it at all, props for you, because I always get them mixed up. But margin is the space around the control. Like if Dave and I were standing next to each other, the margin would be the space between us. And then padding is the way the things inside the controller, the layout, are spaced from the edge. So, how, if, no, I don't want to say if Dave was inside of me, because that doesn't work at all. That's gross. If I had a box with a bunch of stuff in it, and I moved all the stuff closer together, then my padding would be better. So, cool. Which of these, Jamie just said to me, oh no, Maddie, I know. It sounded even worse as I was saying it, but it's fine. It's fine. I have not finished my Starbucks yet, that's why. Which of these isn't a layout type in .NET MAUI? Well, okay. Dave is going to talk about layouts. I'm going to tell you right now it's dockable layout. This better be right. I don't think we have a dockable layout. I don't know what that means, so it better not be that. What is the class used to create a screen in .NET MAUI? I think page, right? I don't know, chat. It should be, it's page, right? It's gotta be. What do we, oh yeah. Test page is part of a content page. And a content page has all these different other types of pages, but they're all pages. Okay, I'm confident with that. This is where my brain was going. It was going screen. No, I don't think it's that. Content view is definitely something we have, but it's a subset. It's not necessarily a page. Oh, someone in the chat, padding, the distance between your bones and your skin, your epidermis. That's a good way to describe padding. I like that. Cool. And then grid is just one of our layouts, so that's probably not the answer. Oh my God, don't slime me. Yeah! Oh, I love these knowledge. Oh, look at that confetti! Oh my goodness! It's a cannon! This is amazing. Oh, there are so many good margin padding, what's the word I'm looking for? Things, examples in the chat right now. This one, Exagetio? I don't know, good Twitch name. Margin is the distance between boxes in the FedEx truck. Padding is those little air pockets that they use to pad the, the 1 cubic meter box your micro SD card comes in. So if you've ever ordered something really small on Amazon and they bring it to you in a giant box, your box had a lot of padding. That's what that means. Pretty good. All right. Let's create this phone number app. And let's see, I have 10 minutes, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly. We're going to create some UI, and we're going to do it. So I want to add a new C# file. So, oh, I have to open a solution. I created a solution in the previous exercise. Oh, I was supposed to name it phone word. That's pretty funny. I did not name it that. Sorry. You don't have to name it if you don't want to. I'm going to right click add here. So there's this little add thing. I know it's kind of small. I'm sorry. New item. It's going to load all my templates here. So these are all the different things I can add. But what I'm going to add is a class, just a basic old class. And I'm going to call this phone word translator. That's what the tutorial asks me. Let me make sure I'm adding it to the right place. Yep, top doesn't have to go in a folder or anything. All right, I'm going to do a copy pasta, and then we're going to talk through what this code means. All right, so first of all, from the tutorial, I'm just copy pasting all this stuff. This is the translator class. It's all logic, so this does not have UI. This is not a UI page. What it's doing is it's taking in a string and converting it to a number. It's just string logic. There is a Boolean here that we define, a string that we define for an array of strings we define for A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, which are, if you look at an American phone or an English language phone, the 1, 2, 3 have like little letters under them. That's what this is. Translate to number. So if I do A, that's 1. If I do G, that's 3, right? So I'm going to save that. It's saved. Should be saved. Okay. Now we're going to create the UI. Let's go to main page. So I think I'm going to break the rules here a little bit and run this app because I want to. Hopefully it builds and runs. I have not tried to do this yet. Because we're going to do something called XAML hot reload. So we can actually watch the UI change as we do these editing things here. Give it in a second. It's starting. So I'm building it for Windows. All you have to do is just hit F5. That's the default. Go for it. Let me scroll through the chat while this is building. Anything funny? We'll save time for questions in 7 minutes. Registering the application to run from layout. Exciting. Let me get rid of all these gold bars because I know what MAUI is and I don't need to fill out my own surveys. And then give the app a second to pop up. So for the person in the chat who asked about profiling, this is the WinUI profiling diagnostic suite. So just FYI. I'm going to unpin that though because we don't need to look at it right now. We're going to use something called XAML Live Preview. Very, very cool. And this is a fancy screen mirror for all intents and purposes, but it's also much more than that. So I have my app over here. Oh, XAML hot reload isn't working. Interesting. It's not on. Okay, maybe we won't be hot reloading it. But oh, I should have pinned that. I'm sorry. If you pin this here, you can use your code and side by side also see your UI update on this one screen. So let me see what happens if I change something here. It says hot reload is not connected, that little red dash, but it should be. So I don't know what I did. Click. Ooh. Ooh, something's broken. That's exciting. Okay, we won't hot reload then. That's fine. We'll just have to run it and look at it. But that's what the app looks like by default. Back into the phone word exercise. We are going to remove this scroll view entirely. So XAML, by the way, very fancy XAML editors. It has like little expanding things. So I can literally just minimize it and just delete that. And it deletes everything in it. Super easy. And then I'm going to add a vertical stack layout. And so we'll type this out. This is our content page. Vertical stack layout. Oh my goodness, my IntelliSense isn't working either. I have not updated this. I don't know what's going on. I wonder. No, it's 10:56. I'll restart it after. I don't want to restart it and see how long Visual Studio takes to deal with me. Yeah, this should work fine. Dave, your IntelliSense is working, right? I was using this the other day. All right, we're typing it. We're going in hardcore. No IntelliSense. It's like the old days where you had to type all your code in Vim by hand and there was no autocomplete. What we're doing is we have spacing, which is the spacing between the items in the vertical stack layout, and then padding, which we've talked about at length. And then at least it automatically closed my tab for me. Thank you. Close my tag. And then we're going to add a label here. So what this app is going to do is you're going to enter a string, enter a word, and it's going to tell you the letters. Label, text, font size, pretty simple stuff. Now we're going to add an entry. And an entry is a way that you can type stuff in to the app, type it in. And so we're going to give it the sample text, the sample entry text, 1555 .NET MAUI. It's pretty good. But you can also give it a placeholder, which means that it shows up like in little gray in the background. If I had IntelliSense, or I'd show you when I don't know where it's not working. This is funny because Jamie was like, yeah, just go through and make sure everything works before you do it. And I did. So I don't know why this isn't working. But then finally, we are going to have two buttons. And I'm just going to kind of paste these in here. Button 1 and button 2. Translate button. And the call button. When you do the translate button, we're going to do the on translate method handler, right? So let's go into the code behind here on translate. The code behind, I have so many tabs open. I'm not a many tab open person. We could get rid of on counter click. I'm going to leave it. We're going to add this on translate button handler. Object sender event RXE is just what the button needs for a button handler. it would have automatically created it for me if my IntelliSense was working. Now I'm getting angry. No. We're going to collect the string, enter number, the translated number. We're going into phone word translator, which is this class that we created earlier. I'm also going to add a string to this class, translated number, so we can kind of track it at the class level. And then let's give some logic here. If the string is null or empty, if the string is not null or empty, there's an exclamation point here. Let's enable the call button. If the string is empty, else, right, let's disable that call button. So literally what I'm doing in the code behind here is call button is enabled, and that just sets the enabled or disabled property. The call button, pretty fancy here. What we want to do is call the phone number that you've typed in. So we're going to do an async button handler. We'll get into that another day, not today. The on-call method, which is the same as this. On-call, on-clicked is that call button. Main page.xaml. Cool. We're going to do this. Display an alert. Oh, I'm having fun. An alert pops up on your screen. We'll see it in a second, but it says dial a number. Would you like to call? Yes or no? And then what we'll do is have dialing eventually. So let's test this real quick. Let me run it. Let's see if Visual Studio wants to be friends with me today. Okay. Oh, I did have to delete this. That's funny. I'll just comment it out. Because it's looking for this thing counter button that doesn't exist because I deleted it. Slime. It's okay. It's okay. I accept it. Thank you. So it's loading. Build started. Deploy succeeded. Oh, and it's already going to pop up live preview for me, which is great because then I don't have to do all the fancy pulling it over. It's loaded up. Live preview. Fabulous. Let me zoom this in because this is way too zoomed out. So what I'll do here is I will type this phone number, like the one we gave you, 1555.net MAUI. I'm going to hit the translate button. And then what it does is on the call button, it says call 1555-638-6284, which is Net MAUI. And then we can type in whatever we want here. So I can be like 1555. Oh, I have to type it into the actual app. 155 Maddie, right? And then translate it. And then it will do that. Same thing in the button here. Now, last thing here. Oh, some stars. I love these animations. This is amazing. The last thing we want to do with this app is actually make that button do something. So, okay, I'm only 1 minute over. Good, because I have a little bit left what I want to do. Cool. We're going to make this work on an Android phone. So in my button click handler for call, we have to actually dial it. So we're going to do a try, good old try catch. Paste. The phone dialer, which is from Microsoft MAUI app model communication phone dialer. The display alert, unable to dial for a non-valid phone number. Unable to dial for phone dialing not supported, which is what's going to happen on Windows here, but if we did it on Android, it would work. And unable to dial, phone dialing failed. Okay, so that's it. Literally we just have to do phone dialer, open translated number. So this is built right into MAUI. What we do want to do is in the manifest, create an intent for Android in this case, which just tells Android that it's okay for us to dial a phone number. So we're going to go into the manifest file, which is XML. It already has permissions here for network state and internet access, but we're going to add a query for an intent that says when I want to dial the phone, I'm going to use the telephone file. I'm going to save it. So let's do this on Android and see if it'll actually open the dialer for me. So I'm going to change my framework to .NET 6 Android, and everything's grayed out. And it's back. I'm getting some errors. I do have API level 31, which is interesting. To create an Android emulator, we have this beautiful ooh, it's installing it for me. Well, thank you, Android. That was kind. I don't know how long it's going to take. We have this beautiful thing called the Android Device Manager. So if you don't have an emulator or you don't have an Android phone, we install all this for you. Just install the latest Android stuff, which apparently I don't have, even though I know I have it. So I don't know what's going on. But your devices will all appear here in the Android Device Manager. You can create a new emulator. Any phone that we give you, you can create whatever you want to do. And then, yeah. So I don't know. This is all just going to load forever, apparently. So we'll run this on Windows. You can also use the Android subsystem for Windows if you're in the US and on Windows 11. There's a demo of that from Build. I'm not going to show you that right now because it's an extra step. We'll let this build for Windows just to prove the logic here. And then that'll be fun. So loading. I need like Jeopardy music or something while it's building. Give it a second. Question, when is WSA available in Europe? So it's based on the Amazon App Store. So the Amazon App Store is not available in Europe. So when Amazon makes that available, then it will be available. So here's the app. I'll actually let you watch me type into it. This is the Windows version of the app running locally on my machine. We have 1555.net MAUI. I'm going to hit translate. Then I hit the call button. Dial a number. Would you like to call? Yes, I would. Now it's going to have an error because I can't dial on this device. Where's my pop-up? Did I not save it? This should pop up with an exception. Phone dialing not supported. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm going to figure that out. Someone's asking, Fuel Snable, hi Fuel. Is asking, why is Amazon App Store related to this? Amazon App Store is the store installation media that we use for the Windows subsystem for Linux. So you install apps onto your Windows machine via the Amazon App Store. So that functionality there is needed to run the stuff there. So cool. I wonder if my Android stuff is installed. It doesn't look like it has, but we'll give it one more run. And otherwise, I'll just post a screenshot of it on Twitter or something later. Make sure my logic here is right. Yeah, delay. Then try phone dialer open. And do. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Kind of anticlimactic end there, but when it comes back up, maybe I'll show it. That is this Learn module. So follow along. I recommend waiting as long as possible to create an Android emulator because it takes a long time, as you can see. And I tend to test on Windows first. So there's some logic there that I need to go figure out. But the summary of what we just did, we learned the architecture. Yes, these are just tooling issues with Visual Studio, as Stefan asked in the chat. So the tooling is still in preview. And the preview version of Visual Studio, for some reason, did not load my IntelliSense, which would have made that whole thing better. I think if I restart Visual Studio, it will just start working, which is interesting. And I must have uninstalled. I clean my machine when I uninstall stuff, and I probably uninstalled Android by mistake. But yeah, that's it. The platform API part of that is probably the coolest, which is like, do we just do phone dialer not open? And I didn't show it to you because Android wasn't working, but that's okay. That's fun. Well, lots of all other things. We did not get into iOS or Mac OS. That's a whole other world that we can talk about at a different time. There is Visual Studio for Mac support for .NET MAUI. It's also in preview. So if you want to use Visual Studio for Mac, that's possible. You can also just use the command line. So if you want to develop anywhere that a command line works, you can do that. But yeah. Okay, I'm only 7 minutes over. That's pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that was a lot of information that we had to cover in a short amount of time. So you did great, Maddie. Sorry there were some technical issues, but thus is life in 2022 with the new preview.
Yep.
So we do have a lot of questions that I want to get to. So let's just dive right into those. I'll kind of just like go down our list that we have. So feel free to let me know if you've already answered it in the chat.
Okay.
So Vladimir is saying, I'm developing an app in Xamarin.Forms, and I use Firebase packages and microcharts. Is there support for them?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. So, well, there's definitely support in Xamarin.Forms, and we also, at the same time that we GA'd .NET MAUI, we also shipped new supporting packages. So, Android X, Firebase, Facebook, Skia Sharp, and they're listed in my blog post. So, I probably forgot one. Microcharts itself does not directly ship a NuGet package that's compatible yet with .NET MAUI. However, I saw on Twitter somebody copied the basic class you need, and it totally works in a .NET 6 MAUI project. So we will work on getting a PR merged and shipping a new NuGet package of it, but you can easily work around that today.
Oh, awesome. That's great to know. So Paul asks, do we have to learn XAML to build a MAUI app?
No, you do not.
Joe Biden says no.
If you weren't here earlier, I had a dream last night that Joe Biden tweeted that he hated XAML, the U.S. president. I don't know why that's what my brain decided to do to me in the middle of the night last night, but I woke up just so upset, and I was like, what is going on?
How dare he?
I know, it was
okay,
brilliant.
so no, you don't need to know XAML to build a .NET
I'm trying
MAUI
to
app.
find the example in the Learn module, but I can't find it right now. I think it's on page 5. It is. Is there any way to use .NET MAUI on VS Code? Yeah, totally. So VS Code is a text editor. You can edit text in it. There are extensions that make editing text for C# and XAML easier. We don't really build any of those right now just because our focus is on Visual Studio. But if you're more of a command line person, I definitely like the command line. I feel more at home there. You can do all the .NET CLI commands to create a new MAUI project, build and deploy from the command line, and then use VS Code as your text editor of choice.
Awesome. That's awesome. So you can choose which editor you'd like to work with.
Yeah.
One of the questions, where can we find beginner content? That's actually a me question. So I'll actually post that link right there. Thank you, John, for getting that for me, our lovely producer, one of our lovely producers in the background. So yeah, just aka/.net-MAUI for beginners. And that's where you can find all the new beginner videos, as well as in the URL, aka resources link for this event, which I will also paste momentarily.
Ooh.
Woohoo. So, this is an interesting question. We're talking about Blazor, which maybe not everyone on this call may know about, but where can I find a MAUI Blazor sample with authentication? Do we have that?
Good question. We definitely have MAUI Blazor in the podcasts app. I don't think we ever built auth though.
I know it's been worked on and the question's been asked before, but we should dig up a direct link to a sample and share it.
Yeah.
Give me the slime.
We deserve it. We deserve to be slime. We don't know. Oh.
My Android emulator, by the way, is finally turning on. So I might actually be able to do the exciting moment of phone.
You can come back after I do my.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I'll come back at the end and
redeem yourself.
Nice. That'll be a nice end all to see it ready. Okay, so I just want to ask a few more questions before we jump into Dave's workshop. So we have essentially we're getting a lot of Linux questions. Can you build .NET MAUI apps on Linux? Can you use Linux? Do you have to know Linux? Is it already supported? Can you give us a little bit of background there?
So we had a Linux backend, if you call it, platform support in Xamarin.Forms. And the UI was based in GDK Sharp. When we moved everything to .NET MAUI, that's not one of the platforms that we brought over. However, Javier Suarez Ruiz, who's part of our core engineering team, was also the original author of that backend in Xamarin.Forms. He has an open source repository where he has the platform working, but very limited UI controls at this point. So that's the current state of Linux support. In terms of like investing further in Linux, making an official supported platform for .NET MAUI. We definitely are gathering as much information and research as possible. We know the market data, et cetera, but what we really need from you, those of you who keep asking for it, tell us what you're doing with it. Whether it's you use it as your development environment, and so you would need tooling support and platform support. Are you building Linux apps? Are they desktop apps? Are they embedded IoT type situations? What are you doing with it? Are you building Android on Linux and then shipping Android apps? We need to know all of that so that we can make a good, strong, informed decision and work it into our priorities. But so far, I have to say that I'm pretty disappointed that everybody asks about it and nobody contacts me and gives me, not nobody. I mean, I have evidence. I have some customers and some developers who have reached out to me and said, hey, here's what I'm building, et cetera. But I would say it's probably like 1% of those who keep asking in all of the live streams about Linux support. So that's my incentive to you.
I was like, you heard it. David wants you to reach out directly and ask.
I do. I want the emails.
Yeah.
I want you to
We
fill my
need to
inbox.
know, because people keep saying you don't have Linux support, and we're like, what do you want to build with it? And then it's crickets. And
I
we're
can't
like,
go justify, investing tons of engineering resource in something that I don't have evidence for. So help me, help you. Help me.
Sure.
Help us.
And these are our contacts, so please reach out. We were able to find that sample, so I just want to paste that right there. We redeemed our sliming. Maybe we'll get stars.
Who wrote that dog? That's amazing.
Yes. So we were able to get that there for yay stars.
Yay!
You did it. So I do want to. I'll take one more question, and then we'll jump in because I know that David's workshop may take a little bit longer. So don't want to miss that. So this is a question that I saw pop up a couple times in the chat. So why is color different in the MAUI system? Color. This question came up twice, so I wasn't sure if there was.
Right. That is a good question. So the question is, why didn't we use system color? Why are we using our own color from the Microsoft MAUI graphics package? And I think it has to do with some of the platform nuances around colors and how they're handled and rendered. However, that's probably where my explanation starts to lose any meaning. So we can have that discussion maybe on the MAUI graphics repo, and those who know our graphics rendering stuff way better than Maddie and I could answer that.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, I will end on this one question as it's directed at Maddie from our C# Brits. So do the icons need to be an SVG or a PNG or a JPEG?
Whatever you want. SVG is the most easily scalable for keeping the resolution, but we also scale PNGs for you. You can add them of all different sizes if you really want to, but you can use all different types. There's a doc for it. I'll find it. We'll put it in the chat. Hold on. Do that later. But yeah, you can use whatever image file you want.
Oh, cool. Again, very adaptable. Alrighty. Well, those are all the questions for now, but don't worry if you didn't get your question answered or you still had further ones, feel free to put those in the chat and we'll take some time a little bit later to get to those. Now, I would really love to jump into the second part of today's event, which is the next module. We're talking about layouts. Thanks, Maddie. I'll pull you back on for questions later. She'll be hanging around in the chat, so Maddie's not going far. Thanks, Maddie. Pull you off, and yeah. So, do you have a screen share, David? Yep,
I have. I shared my desktop.
Beautiful.
All right, so I'll even zoom in a little bit more there.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the whole learn path. Maddie just covered creating a cross-platform app with .NET MAUI. As Maddie has instructed us on behalf of the President of the United States, we will not be covering how to create apps with XAML, but we're going to jump into layout. So what are we doing in this section? We're going to move some things around screens in position and space We're definitely going to know the difference between margin and padding. And then we're going to explore both the stack layout and new vertical and horizontal stacks, as well as grid. What do you need? As before Visual Studio 2022, you totally can do this on Mac with the preview version of Visual Studio for Mac. I contemplated doing that myself today, but I have my Windows environment working and it's better for streaming. So that's the only reason I'm sticking with Windows per se. And of course, you need C# and .NET. There have been a few questions about other language support, F# and VB.NET, which I don't know, do we call it VB.NET? Is it just VB these days? And while those may work to some extent, we really focus on supporting the C# experience. And so, yes, that means that we don't directly invest in supporting other languages at this time. However, lots of community support, and you may be able to use them if you wish. All right, so we'll go through these modules. Let's go into the introduction. I am not going to read all of this. There's quite a bit of text to go through. You feel free to read this on your own, but I installed a cute little plugin that allows me to highlight the things that I think we should talk about. And then we're going to jump into exercises and hopefully spend the majority of the time in the code and pushing pixels. So when it comes to layouts, and of course, .NET MAUI, we're talking desktop, we're talking mobile. There's a lot of different screen sizes, different pixel densities. You know, Apple has a conference coming up soon. Maybe they're going to tell us that there's a whole new world of pixel densities with a cool name. I don't know. That's not a rumor or anything. But so how do we, you know, develop an app that can adapt properly to all those different things? And this is where layouts really come in and do a great job for us, is to enable us to build all those different UIs with the flexibility to have custom UIs per screen dimension. We have adaptive triggers and all kinds of other things that we're not going to go into today. If you're a web developer, think in terms of like media queries and things like that. But this is where layouts really help us out. So what are we going to do objective-wise? We're going to arrange some elements. We're going to display them vertically and horizontally in a stack. And then we're going to take that UI and we are going to replace it with a grid and kind of show you how both will achieve the same results. And you can choose which one's right for you. Cool. And I guess I have to answer questions at the end of each of these things too, which I actually confess I did this yesterday. So I hope I can get the right answers and not be slimed, but who knows? Somebody might be a little twitchy on the slime button in the production booth. Yeah, see, I knew it. You're just waiting. You're just waiting. Specifying the size of a view. So one thing about, let me see something real quick. One thing I've noticed about this cute plugin is I have to refresh the screen to get my highlights to come through. So there we go. So in general, a layout, what is a layout? It's a panel that takes children, right? So within that panel, you're going to then space those children out based on the rules of the layout manager. So this is something that is new in .NET MAUI as compared to Xamarin, is that every layout now has a layout manager, which really has two main methods, one for measuring and one for arranging. I can't remember if those are the actual names of the methods. Boy, I'm doing this gesture a lot today. This is me not knowing exactly, but I'm in the ballpark. So that's essentially what it's going to do. It's going to size them and position them, right? So we have a variety of different layouts within stacks. Stacks by default are going to be vertical. However, we have an orientation property which will space things horizontally. And then we have special stack layouts now in .NET MAUI, vertical stack layout, horizontal stack layout, which they are simpler iterations of the same layout panel. And they're optimized, slightly less features, which we'll talk about here in a bit. We also still have an absolute layout where you can put things exactly where you want them if you know exactly the size of the screen that you're dealing with. And then we have Flex Layout, which is a Flexbox-based layout system. It's a port of, what was it called? It was a C library from Facebook. But anyway, it's all written in .NET now. So you can utilize that, which is nice for wrapping things, for when you need to space between things or space around things. And then Grid. Grid is kind of the chosen one, the special child. It's the layout that I think a lot of us use the most because it's super powerful. Once you get your head around the concepts, it's a lot of fun and you can do tons of stuff with it. And it tends to be quite performant. Creating a layout panel, adding child views to it is what we're going to be doing. Something about sizing here, because if you're building something that's going to run on different screen sizes, if you know the size of the thing, the view that you are building, it is best to give it a size, because then you're going to save yourself layout measurement and looping and things like that. The layout manager is not going to have to determine and assign a size to something. Like a button, for example, if you know that you want that button to be at least 40 pixels, or not pixels. So I'm just going to use like units of measurement, which we'll talk about in a second too, because units of measurement are different on each platform. But 40 units, right? If you want something to be 40 units tall, so that you can get your finger, if it's a touch screen, that's kind of the general rule, 40, 44 units. Then you can specify that to make sure that the button is actually that size. And then that'll save you in terms of layout performance. However, for adaptive UI and things like this, you don't want to specify actual units when it needs to actually adapt. Reshape itself to the screen or the density on which it is being displayed. So keep that in mind when it comes to setting sizes. So in this first example, and I think we get to the actual exercise where we're going to run this code here in just a second. We've got a label on the screen. Of course, it's got text and color, so that we can see it and see where it is. The background is helpful because we see the actual bounds of the view. It's being vertically and horizontally centered within the context that it exists. In this particular case, it's just sitting within a content page. And then, of course, it has a font size. So you can see that this is all the space that it's taking up. It didn't fill the whole page with the gray background. So the label's only existing in the very center of this page. If we specify explicit sizing, and we do use width request and height request. I know that we talked about dropping requests from the names of these properties. That did not happen for compatibility reasons, and it still is applicable. The reason that request is on there is, especially on mobile, when you ask for the size of something, you're actually asking, you're making a request, because iOS may say, you know what, there's not enough size for that. And I've got my own rules, my own auto layout rules, and I'm going to change the size of it. So that's where that name comes from. So when doing this, you see that the height is 300, the width is 100. And so there we go. The text, why is the text at the top? Well, it's kind of the top. It's also the start. So we have options for start, center, and end. And by default, everything is at start. And this plays a role left to right with internationalization and things like that. So I mentioned sizing units. So as mentioned, each platform kind of has its own units. On iOS, they're called points. On Android, they are density independent pixels. And so when you specify them in MAUI, you're not really using points, pixels, or anything else. You're using device independent units, essentially. So, well, I guess that's the name on Android. Let's see here. Rendering the size of the view. This kind of just covers a lot of the same information, so I'm going to skim over this because I want to get to building something. Maddie's lucky. She went first. the jazz hands in the comments. All right. What is expands? Okay, so this is definitely something that I wanted to talk about. Within the layout options, and I guess I kind of skimmed over that. Within layout options, we have start, center, and end. I did mention that. We also have fill. So fill will, as you would expect, take up all the space it possibly can along that axis within the layout. But what is this expands thing about? Well, it's going to allow the view to request extra space if it's available. Now, this only works in a stack layout. It is not going to work in a vertical stack layout or a horizontal stack layout, so keep that in mind. And it does not work, even though you may see it in IntelliSense because of the way XAML works. It does not work in a grid, doesn't work in a flex layout, doesn't work in an absolute layout. It only works in a stack layout. Knowledge check. So I guess I need to answer this, don't I? What does a layout panel do? Does it hold a collection of child views and determine their size and position? That sounds reasonable. Does it arrange its child views in a single row or column? It could. Does it encapsulate the layout options such as layout alignment and expands? I think the answer is number one. I think it holds the child views and determines their size and position. And I am not getting slimed this time. Where's my confetti cannon? All right. Whoa, look at that. It's almost like ASCII art stuff. Man, we're going all out in this thing today. Woohoo. All right, let's get on to some exercise. Let's get some code going here. All right, so we're going to explore the layout. We're going to, this sample is pretty cool because it's pre-built with some nice, beautiful code. And we're going to be able to push that hello all around our screen using the different options. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clone this from GitHub. So if you're following along, I'm going to open this in a new tab. And so we've got the pre-built repo right here. So I am going to copy this URL. I'm going to minimize. No, let's just cut over. All right, I've got Visual Studio 2022 preview loaded up here, ready to go. I'm going to use the clone a repo option. So this is actually not something that I do regularly because I manage most of my stuff through GitHub's desktop client or through command line. But this is actually a cool thing that was added last major version. And you can just clone directly in here. So I'm going to do that. And then let's see here. If I zoom, does that zoom on the thing? It doesn't zoom on the thing. Gosh, I hate that. So you can't really see this super well. But over here, I have all of the projects that are in that solution. So I'm going to open up the first in the list, which is alignment.sln. That will load the solution up into Visual Studio. It is going to restore my dependencies. So once these yellow warning triangles, shield things go away, I will know that I'm restored and I am ready to go. Cool. As before with what Maddie showed, app is the entry point for the application. It's going to load up the app shell. All that the app shell probably has in it is just the one page. That's what it has. And then this is where all the magic is for what we're going to be exploring today in this particular sample. So in this one, it is actually using a grid with two horizontal stack layouts, and then the label, which is going to get pushed around the grid. Grids, by default, it is the first element in the grid is at the back, right, from a z-index type standpoint. And we actually do support a z-index now. That's bonus information that's not part of the lesson for you. Come in here, I've got a z-index, so I could actually take this particular element and throw it at the top. Stealing my keyboard focus. Broken. Hang on. Replug in the keyboard. Wow. Oh, it's in like a, Why isn't it like a tab focus? What is going on? Maddie, what did you do to Visual Studio? So strange. It has absolutely lost its mind. I'm going to restart it. That is so weird. All right, let's load back up Visual Studio Preview. Going back into the alignment. All right. Oh, I know. This is the different project. That's not actually what I want. Visual Studio Preview. Open project or solution. See, that's not what I want. All right, repros, exercise 1. Is this actually where I want to be, though? Yeah, I think so. All right. I want to show you the one that doesn't have the stuff I was doing yesterday so that we're actually starting from the beginning. All right, I want to make sure that I can actually type. Maddie. There it is. There's my IntelliSense. All right, so I could put this at 1 and it would actually throw everything up and I can delete it. All right. Fundamentals of a keyboard and Visual Studio are back in action. Whew. I knew that was going to happen. All right, let's go ahead and run this. Dun, dun, dun. Child menu items in shell and get them to appear in WinUI as well. We're not going to be covering that one today. Sorry. All right. So because I'm on one screen and nobody can see my other screen, I'm going to resize this and I'm going to use the XAML Live preview so that you can see what the heck I'm doing. All right. So we have the XAML here, which we've all seen. We've got, well, I'm gonna skip over talking about this just yet, although the padding is important, right? We have 20 units of padding. But we essentially have, this is the top row. We know that this is the top row because I could hide it on, right? That's that. Or we could do like a debug rainbows thing and change the background color of things just to confirm what's what. All right, so all of these buttons are going to do the thing that you would expect them to do. So I can't click over there, but horizontal start, center, end, and fill. Fill was clearly the default to begin with. And then we have start and end, start and center. And you can see that it's impacting not just the position, but the actual sizing of the element. So when you perhaps put something on the screen and it is like not there, or it's not the size you expect it to be, my first recommendation to you is to provide it with vertical and horizontal options. And then that will help. So we can center something on the screen. We can fill, center and fill that way, center and fill that way, right? And if we want to look at what's actually happening here, we can navigate to that. I just hit F7, by the way, which for the longest time I thought didn't work, and haha, it works. So this takes us to the code behind in this particular sample. Just has a bunch of methods that are, the target is the label, and it is changing the layout options on those particular properties. Simple enough, right? All right, cool. So let's stop this and let's go back. That's really all that particular exercise was about. It's a short one, and it just kind of gets us familiar with setting these alignment properties. Next, let's talk about stack, vertical stack and horizontal stack. Really, I kind of have already covered a lot of this information. Let's refresh and make sure I have any highlights on this thing. But essentially, stack has both orientations baked into it, and it works with that expands option that I mentioned. Whereas vertical and horizontal stacks are preferred if you know the orientation and they're already optimized and you care about those optimizations for performance. And really that optimization really comes down to the fact that the layout manager doesn't have to look at the orientation. And it also does not care about the expands. So some micro optimizations there, which, you know, may or may not be materially important to your application. You can see here that you can create stacks in code, and you can add children to stacks in code. So children is the property that holds all of the subviews within a layout, in particular a stack layout. So here we're adding 3 boxes of different colors. The orientation is vertical, so we get those right there. It's the equivalent of doing this. So do you prefer this code or do you prefer doing this? Either way. To make it a little bit more concise, because this can be pretty verbose, you can use the C# markup extensions that are part of the MAUI community toolkit. And that will give you a nicer, fluent UI syntax for building those UIs. One thing I want to call attention to here for the recording, for editing later, this is inaccurate. The default value for spacing within a stack layout is not 6, it's 0. The defaults pretty much for anything that is size related in MAUI is 0. So 10 minutes till QA. Thanks, Jamie. So let's speed up. But spacing is super powerful, and you can use spacing in all of these layouts, and you can use them in grid too to push things around the screen. So it's the space between Maddie and I. We need to keep each other 6 feet apart, right? The slime button has been bequeathed to somebody else. How to set the orientation? Very straightforward orientation. And then you can see that now it's horizontal. So now it's filling vertically, but expanding horizontally. Expansion, we've really talked about this already. So I'm going to breeze through this. Specific to stack layout, though. Can't emphasize that enough. Don't expect it to do anything anywhere else. And then essentially that expand is going to request that extra space. The optimized layouts, use them when possible. I also like it because it's explicit. You just know, right? You know that you're doing a vertical stack layout. It's easier to read. You know, you may not be saving many keystrokes, but it is good. All right. How can you add child views to a stack layout? Adding child views to the child views property. Ooh, child views doesn't sound right. You can do it through XAML or C#. That is accurate. Declare child views and then use either the horizontal, depending on how you'd like the views to be displayed. True, but that's not exactly what was asked. So how can you add child views to the stack layout? Let's say through XAML and C#. Check it. Do not press the slime button because I am correct. But feel free to blow that cannon of confetti. Woohoo! I love it. We need to bring this stuff to the .NET MAUI community stand-up, which will start in about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Little plug. All right, so we have this particular layout. It's in the repo that we already cloned, so I'm going to go back to that. And then we're going to take it from this, and we're going to make it look like this, and then we're going to turn it into a grid all within the next 10 minutes. Sweet, sweet. We're going to fix up the UI. Essentially, what this whole exercise does is it walks us through doing the things that let's just go do it. We don't need to do that. I'm kind of just the go poke at the code person and figure it all out. Is this going to show me anything? It's not, is it? Oh, it is. Sweet. All right. Exercise 2. I was afraid I'd lost that. Cool. So I'm just switching solutions using this button here, which says switch between solutions and available views. which is pretty cool. And I clicked it. So there we go. All right. So we're in the tip calculator. The main page is what we care most about. We're going to run it because our NuGets have restored. And it's, I say NuGets, it's NuGet packages and NuGet workload things, which probably didn't clarify anything for you, but it's just a slight difference between what we did previously. All right, XAML live preview, so you can see it. You can see that it is bugly, but ugly. So let's fix that up. All right, so first things first, we can either do margins. Margins or padding. I prefer to always do margins because Jason Smith told me so. Margins, for some reason, I guess, calculate faster. So that's important to know. So I'm going to do horizontal stack layouts here. Copy that. Boom. All right, now we've got those together. But let's add some spacing. No, actually, I don't want to add spacing here. Do I? Do I? I don't remember. But this, we want to, first of all, vertically center these so that they look better together. Let's go ahead and zoom in because that's what this is all about. Vertical options, center. Nice. But this one, I think it wanted me to give it a width of like 100, if I remember. And then the other thing up here is that we need to give this some spacing. It was 20, maybe. All right. So we've got that. And then I'm going to do similar here. Close that up. Here. Close it. Yes, here. So I'm encapsulating these views so that I can, get the alignment that I want. And I don't like to type over and over again. I'm all about the copy paste. All right. So this is looking better. We are aligned. Cool. Spacing's looking good. I think the other thing it wanted us to do, I'm trying to bring back up the page. Here we go. So what do we want this to look like at the end? We want it to look like this. So I've spaced things out probably more than it wanted me to, but I'm okay with that. All right. So, but I want to get these buttons into this, into the 2x2. So how do I do that? We're just going to keep going with the horizontal stack because that's what this particular example is all about. Oops. All right. But they're not filling the space. So what do we do about that? Let's see here. Oh, firstly, get some spacing. I may not be using the exact units that it recommended, but you'll forgive me, right? Yeah, see, I think that's not going to work, is it? But if I do this, look at that. Orientation horizontal. And all right, see how that's working? Same thing here. What is it? We got like 10 minutes left. I mean, in the thing, obviously we want to answer some questions. Fill and expand. Options. Fill and expand. And the orientation. Orientation horizontal. Cool. All right, so Looking pretty good. Looking pretty close to what they asked us for. What was the bill? The bill was something like that. A tip. Yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work because all that hot reloading broke the event handlers. So let's just reboot it real quick. Show you that it works. Love having Windows here to do all this. All right, so 20%. Look at that. I can tip more. I can tip less. I can round up. I can round down. Totally cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the deal. So, not that one. That one. Let's learn. Let's do this. All right. We have examined the results. Now, grid, I guess I'll just talk to this because, I mean, I would love to code it, but we're definitely going to go over. So with grids, you have essentially rows and columns. As you can see here, you can have spacing. You can have row spacing, column spacing. You can also span columns. And then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, with grids, it's a z-index based thing. So first in is at the bottom. And then as you go down the XAML page or the last thing you added, it's almost like a stack. So that's at the forefront of the view. So you could stack things on top of each other that way. There's really three ways that sizing happens inside of a grid. Absolute, so you can give something, 50 by 50 units, and it's going to be that size. Auto means that the content of that thing is going to determine its size. So whatever size it needs to be visible is what it's going to size that cell to in the grid. And then star is proportional. I don't often think of it as proportional. I think of it as give me as much space as I can take. But you can do cool things like say, okay, this is 1 star and this is 4 star. That means that, altogether that's 5 stars and it's going to split that space proportionally. So you can achieve all the same stuff. I would highly recommend not doing this. That's old school. That makes it look like you've been programming for too long. But you can do this and everybody's going to be like, wow, that is so much more concise. That's so cool. You should totally do that. Why would you ever want to do that? So you have these nice ways of specifying more concise row definitions and column definitions. So just like that. And you can see that it's inline using stars and auto and proportional, etc., etc. All right. Let's see here. I'm skipping down. The attached properties is how you put things into a particular cell. So you can see that the grid here has these column and row definitions. We have 3 rows, 0-based index. That's super important to remember. And then you have 2 columns. So this box view is going to appear in row 1, which is not the first row, but the second row, 0-based index. And then in the first column. And the background is navy. See, that's where it appears. And then you can span, as I mentioned. Let's do the knowledge check and then we'll go to questions. What is the purpose of star? And we know that it's proportional, so I'm looking for the word proportional. Fixed sizing, nope. Proportional sizing, yep. Automatically allowing grid to determine the size of the row or column based on the child, nope. So we're going to go with this one, right? Crushed it. And then the last bit of this whole learn module is going through that same tip calculator and turning the layout into the same thing, but using grid instead of all the stack layouts. So we start with a vertical. So this is your homework. Go home and do this, or be at work and home and do this. And I think this is actually the end result. So you could totally skip over it and just grab this and be like, ha, I'm done. Right? That's what the copy button's for. So you don't have to actually go do it yourself. You can just be like, Microsoft did it for me. And that's it.
All righty. That was great job. That was amazing.
Succeeded.
Good job for everybody who did it online and followed along.
Jamie.
Oh, can you hear me? No?
Can anybody else hear Jamie? Is it just me? Did I do something?
It might just be you. Oh, no. Oh,
You hear
no.
Jamie? It's just me. But can you hear me?
Yes.
I hear you.
I can't hear Maddie.
I hear
Oh, this is
Jamie.
wild.
Imagine if we just
Man,
let
my
David
computer is.
talk
Oh, you know what?
silently for like 40
Somehow,
minutes.
when I unplugged and plugged in my keyboard, it muted itself.
Oh boy.
Oh man, things are weird. All right.
What about now? Can you hear me?
There you are.
Great. Excellent. Well, that was amazing. Thank you so much, David. That was a really good overview and summary of the stack layout, of the layouts. We do have a bunch of questions, though. I know we're running up at time, so I do want to get to a bunch of that really quickly. Okay. So I'll just fire them off. I'll bring us all full screen here. And okay, so what kind of storage and or database do you use across platforms?
SQLite.
SQLite.
Or whatever you prefer.
Okay.
I mean, there's tons of NoSQL options. The SQLite is the ubiquitous, super lightweight, easy to use. But there's also, Mongo. I'm going to not mention them all because then I'll get in trouble. Realm is an option. I think Realm you can back with various different things. Entity framework with whatever backing store you want. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Is it possible to use something like a Rust library within a .NET MAUI app?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I'm
Something
not
to
sure.
take back for the
I feel
team.
like if it's a DLL, you could load it in for Windows, but
Maybe not for all the way across
not
the
for
board.
all of them. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, good question.
Good question. We'll look into it. So this is in reference to Maddie's workshop that we did. What's the reason for the async void over the async task?
So we could talk about async await stuff for a very long time. Another good video James Montmagno has. It's basically if the function has to return something to tell it that it's done, to tell a different function that it's done is the difference. So if it doesn't really matter when it's done, if it just runs on its own, you can just void it. But if you're calling it from a different function and that function needs to wait for that asynchronous function to be done and then do some logic, that's when you want to use task. I'm sure there's a better answer than that too, but that is how I've always thought about it.
Go ask Brandon Minnick.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Brandon Minnick would be
the Code Traveler at the Code Traveler.
At Code Traveler, yeah.
You'll learn more than you ever dreamt.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. So this is a question, maybe not everybody is aware of this, so I just maybe wanted to clarify for everybody, is .NET MAUI only for mobile development?
Nope. You can use .NET MAUI for mobile, tablet, desktop. You can use it for embedded scenarios. You can use it in CarPlay. You can use it on Android Wear. You can use it on Tizen for your massage chairs, for your refrigerators, for your TVs. Yeah, it goes tons of places. Wherever .NET goes, you can go there with MAUI, generally speaking.
I love that. Okay, so Jose Silva asks, can we deploy a .NET MAUI app to Windows ARM?
Sort of. So ARM native support is coming. We have early builds of things, but we need to finalize all of our builds that are fully ARM compatible, binary or whatever. So you can absolutely build and deploy your applications that will run on ARM devices, but they will run in whatever virtualized just made that up, virtual mode that is interpreting the x64 for now, kind of like how VS Mac for the longest time worked on the M1 chip, but was not technically an M1 compiled thing at that time, which it is now.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Alrighty. We have a few, so I'm just writing through them.
And definitely feel free to tweet any of us, for sure.
Yes, of course. So if we run up out of time, don't worry. Feel free to contact any of us on Twitter, and we could reach out. We'd love to continue the conversation. As well as there's community stand-up. I will plug that in a minute. So can you add controls dynamically to a stack through the add method, like in the old Xamarin.Forms days?
Yep. You sure can. And as a matter of fact, there is an add method, I think, that got promoted. So directly on the grid, you can just do add as opposed to going grid.children.add. But yeah, you can do that, and then you can use the extension methods to assign the rows and columns, etc. We also added the additional overrides to that method so that you could be passing in the row span, column span at the same time that you're adding that child to the grid.
Gotcha. Okay. And I have one more. Can you access low-level API calls with .NET MAUI as you with Android Studio?
Great question. Yes, you absolutely can. Anything you can do in Java, you can do either in MAUI and C# or in some very specific cases, you might have to bump out to Java. Those platform folders you saw with the Android and iOS and whatever folders, in there you can put platform-specific code and write whole classes, interfaces, whatever. You can also just do if, Android, like an if-def compiler statement in your code. And if it compiles for Android, you can do if Android, like use very specific Android function that we give to you in C#.
Amazing. Well, that was absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I learned so much today. I hope everybody who watched learned a lot as well. Feel free to continue on your learning. We have a Let's Learn challenge where you can learn all about .NET MAUI. There's a leaderboard. There's a bunch more of the Learn modules covering all of this to get you started. We also have all of the brand new .NET MAUI videos live today, this morning. So feel free to go check those out. And if you want to keep hanging out with all of these awesome and lovely people, we highly suggest you go on over to get and catch their community stand-up. There we go. I was pulling the link. Catch their community stand-up at live.net and get some more awesome .NET MAUI time. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate your time and have a great day.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, producers, as well.
Slime masters.
Slime masters.